When the Nintendo Entertainment System was first released, one of its biggest selling points was that it opened up console gaming to free-roaming exploration in new ways. Games like Metroid and The Legend of Zelda certainly capitalized upon this and received immense praise for doing so. Another title that adopted a similar approach was Hudson Soft's Faxanadu, which hit shelves in North America in August of 1989. It's a side-scrolling action RPG of sorts where elements from both genres are apparent. Interestingly, Faxanadu is actually a spin-off of Xanadu, a PC-based predecessor that was only released in Japan. As the story goes, you play the role of a wanderer who returns to his hometown, Aeolis, to find it in a state of disrepair and almost entirely abandoned. The town is under the attack of dwarves, who found a meteorite with mysterious powers. This has caused the dwarves to behave erratically and attack Aeolis. The town is also running out of fountain water, the lifeblood of the population. After the Elvish King gives the main character 1,500 golds, yes, golds in the plural, he sets out to find the source of the calamity. In several ways, Faxanadu plays like Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link. You can converse with townsfolk in many locations, where you're greeted to extremely similar dialogue boxes. In these areas, you can also buy supplies, gain hints, and prepare yourself for future battles. You start with virtually nothing, so you have to use the golds you receive to buy equipment and food, and also to learn the ability to use magic. Your main character can venture throughout an open world, using various weapons to strike enemies. In addition, magic can be used to destroy enemies that are difficult to reach. Also, the game's development is tied heavily to keys, and you have to obtain one from the key shop in Aeolis just to exit the initial town. As far as enemies go, the game is filled with zombies, weird one-eyed goblin-looking things, moving spiked shells, and other abominations. The controls are pretty straightforward, but the movements are a bit jerkier than some of the other free-roaming action games on the platform, like Metroid for instance. Early weapons have poor range, but you eventually get longer-range blades that can strike at greater length. Also, the Deluge spell allows you to hurl projectile fireballs forward, which are absolutely imperative and honestly pretty overpowered. Some of the bosses are pretty cool too, and they definitely add a little bit of a challenge. Just take a look at this giant chode. The game really is a lot more annoying at the beginning, because the puny dagger barely manages to kill enemies without making you completely vulnerable to moving attacks. Probably the biggest irritation is that you can't crouch, so there's no way to hit the slow-moving spiky dudes that creep along the ground. Most of the time this isn't an issue because you can just jump over them, but in some parts of the game, you can really get stuck and frustrated trying to maneuver around them. Probably the biggest annoyance in Faxanadu is that there are several parts in the game that restrict your movement to the next area until you can buy expensive storyline items. This forces the player to grind excessively at times, and it doesn't hold up too well. It's especially frustrating if you spent all your golds on equipment only to find out that your higher priority was the pricey prerequisite item that blocks your path. The other setback, which is more minor, is that you can only hold a total of 9 items at a time. You can also only buy 1 key at a time, which can make traveling to new areas a total pain. There is a password system you can use if you die, but even if you input a password, you have to restart your progress with no golds, which is pretty punishing. The soundtrack is pretty sweet for an NES game. The intro tune is addicting, and I think the music was pretty well done overall. There's a good combination of uplifting tunes, catchy melodies, and certainly some standout tracks that are dark and depressing. I think the score is one of the best parts of the game, and these tunes will definitely stick in your head if you play it for any length of time. It's like Metroid and Zelda in that way, though the tracks obviously aren't quite as legendary. Faxanadu mostly flew under the radar for its time, but Nintendo Power did cover the game in issue 7. The 10-page article contained gameplay tips, maps for several levels, and even provided some lore. The title also shared time with several other games as part of a Nintendo commercial. Here, check it out.
Nintendo, the best shows on television.
For its time, Faxanadu was a really great side-scrolling action RPG. It combines a pretty cool fantasy-oriented story with fun, action-oriented and dungeon-crawling gameplay, and provides a nice selection of items to find. Unfortunately, many of its mechanisms now seem very dated though, and it certainly doesn't hold up as well as games like Zelda 2: A Link to the Past. If you like games like Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest, Battle of Olympus, and especially Zelda 2, I think you'll really like this one. If not, it may seem tedious to return to now. Regardless, Faxanadu was absolutely a very solid game for its time, and I was definitely pleased by the nostalgia I felt when I returned to it. It's not the greatest action RPG on the system, but it's definitely respectable. So, what do you think about Faxanadu? If you remember it, leave a comment below about the most memorable aspect of the game to you. If you like my videos, please subscribe to my channel and click the bell below to be alerted upon the addition of new ones. Also, please join my Discord community linked in the description and consider supporting my channel via YouTube's Join feature to receive member exclusives, such as advanced videos and complete video transcripts.